Well, ran into a little bit of a problem with the Volvo, so it's getting flat-bedded back home. I was here trying to get it smogged, and after doing all that work, it wouldn't start. So we're gonna have to dig into it a little bit deeper and see what's going on. But we'll report back when I get back home. But right now, she's down for the count. All right, so back on this Volvo 850, and I know I've got a small head gasket leak, because when the car's warmed up and I open up the expansion tank, we'll have coolant push out. So what's happening is the exhaust gases are pushing into the coolant chamber and pushing the coolant out. So it's not milky. I mean, it's perfectly clear, but it'll bubble out. So it's a really small breach, because I only have to refill this maybe every other month or so. I've got to top it off a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and try this case seal. There's different brands. There's Bars, there's Blue Devil, but I've heard really good reviews about case seal. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in and start it up, get it ready to go, and see if that fixes this small leak. Real simple. It says just shake it for 30 seconds, which I just did, and then go ahead and pour it in. So I poured it in, that's what it looks like now. And then it says just drive it normally, and after about a couple minutes, after it reaches engine temperature, it should seal. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it for a drive, and we'll do that same test after we come back from a short drive. Okay, so now we're back up to operating temp, and according to Robert DIY, if I open this cap, it should keep pretty steady. So I'm leaking a little bit, but it used to leak a lot. So might still have a small breach, but I could try using that stuff again, or try a Bars or another brand. But it was just gushing out before, now it's just sort of seeping out. So probably still need to replace the head gasket at some point, but you know, for the time being, I think we'll just leave it as is and keep it running and keep it topped off. It's not a huge breach, so we'll see. All right, so I'm still getting a P0135 check engine light code, and I've tried clearing it a couple times, and it still keeps coming back. And so what's telling me is that it thinks it's a front O2 sensor, pre-cat O2 sensor, but I've replaced it already on this car. And when I first got it, that was the check engine code, and so I replaced it. And so I don't know what the problem is, but I did order another one, another brand new one. So we're gonna try to replace it again and see if maybe I just got a bad O2 sensor and just need to replace it. Okay, and before anybody asks, yes, I did order the original Bosch version. I just took it out of the box already, but this is the Bosch OE version. And it should work, so it's not a cheap eBay knockoff. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started to take it off. So I'm just gonna first take off this air tube just to give me a little extra space to the O2 connector, which is right there. Okay, so you'll notice that there's two sort of switches. There's the one closer to the interior of the car, and then there's one, I don't know if you can see it right there, towards the outside of the car. And so this one is your rear O2 sensor, and this one is for your front O2 sensor. And so to open it, just to unplug it, you just kind of get a small screwdriver in there and you kind of twist it, and then you can kind of open it like that. I just get a little screwdriver in there, twist it, and then get a bigger screwdriver in there to open it up the rest of the way. Okay, and then once it's fully open, then the plug will come out the back. And it's probably going to be easier just to get it out from the bottom of the car. So that's what I'm going to do, is go underneath now and finish up the rest of this from underneath. Okay, my hands were a little too big to fit inside, so what I decided to do was to pull out the intake tube, which, you know, basically it's just a hose clamp down here. Oops, it's the other way around. Hose clamp at the bottom here, and then unplug the plug here and a couple hoses here, and then one hose on the backside here, and then that just comes out, and that gives you a lot of access to the O2 sensor. And again, I just undid the plug. Okay, so there it is open. So you just pull it straight up and off the plug, and then this plug is on with onto a metal thing, and then you need to unhook it off the little metal post. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so this one hasn't been on there that long, so I was able to just crack it open with a 22-inch open-ended, a 22 millimeter, sorry, 22 inches a lot, 22 millimeter open-end wrench, and it cracked right open, so I was able to just turn it off. And here's what the old one looks like. I don't see anything particularly wrong with it, so I don't know why it would keep failing. But anyway, let's screw the new one in. And you don't want to twist the wire, so just make sure that you got the wire. Okay, so the new one is all screwed in. So I'm just going to go up top and plug it in, button everything up, and we'll go for a nice long test drive and see if the check engine light comes back. Okay, so you can see I've got the bottom of that clipped into the metal bracket. It's a little tricky to get in. There's a lot of sharp edges. You can see I've got blood, some busted knuckles. But once that's in, then we'll take this plug and plug it back in, and you can see where it needs to go. So it only fits one way. So you get it on there, and then once it's in, then you press this red thing, and that's what locks it in place. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna need both hands to do it. Okay, got it back on. Press the little thing button down. So let me put the intake tube back on, and this job is done. 93 Volvo 850. It's a normally aspirated non-turbo sedan. So I'm just gonna, it looks really clean inside actually. Even the headliner's not even sagging for a 93. But just pulling a few parts off of this car. Mainly I came because on the 93s, the control arms have removable ball joints or replaceable ball joints. So the later cars, you got to replace the whole control arm if you want to do a ball joint. It's all included. But on the 93s, you can actually just replace the ball joint, and it's just three 13 millimeter nuts at the bottom, and these control arms come out the same way. 18 millimeter head on the, 18 millimeter nut, and then a 15 millimeter head on the bolt. And they can be on, I don't know what this white stuff is. It feels like it's Loctite because they're on there pretty tight. But once you get that going, once you get this off, you don't even have to remove the ball joint. I just took it out just to show you guys. But once you get those bolts out and you undo the nuts on the bottom of the ball joint, this whole assembly comes apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side now. Same way. So you're just gonna get these nuts and bolts out, these nuts and bolts out, and then at the bottom, just get these 3 nuts out. All right, so here's the second one on the other side, all done. Same way, just took out the 2 bolts, dropped it, and on this one, you can see the, let me see. On this one, you can see I just left the ball joint hanging in there, but it's just the 3 bolts come out and the whole control arm drops off. So now, when you need new ball joints, you don't have to get a whole control arm. You just buy ball joints. I just need to remember it only comes on the 93 Volvo 850s, either sedan or wagon. So just for comparison, this is on the a 95 Volvo 850. And you can see this ball joint, see it's completely attached to the control arm. So if you wanted to replace this ball joint, you're gonna have to replace this whole control arm assembly. Which, I mean, it's not a huge deal, but it might save you a little bit of money if you can just replace the ball joint. Sometimes I think the bushings over in the control arm will last a little bit longer than the ball joint. But anyway, if you can find a 93 and you got time, pull that. That way, when you do the control arm, or excuse me, the ball joint, you can leave the control arm in place and just replace the ball joints. But anyway, just wanted to give you that as a comparison. Well, we're back at the 850 Volvo. It had a manual transmission in it, and now it doesn't. It took me about an hour to pull the shift lever, the pedal assembly box, and the clutch cylinder, master cylinder. And here we are. I'd say that's a good day at the pick and pull. So we went ahead and pulled the manual transmission out. Got the clutch and the flywheel. It looks like at some point this was replaced. So all that stuff was in pretty good condition. So we went ahead and pulled that stuff. Pretty good day. Okay, so after a couple of days at the pick and pull at that 850, we finally got all the parts. Got the flywheel, the shift lever, the gearbox, the master cylinder, the clutch pedal assembly, and fairly good clutch. Looks fairly new. Like I said, I think this transmission has been gone through or went through. Some of the bolts weren't all installed, so it made taking it out a lot easier. And then also forgot the transmission cables. So anyway, good pick at the pick and pull. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts to pull from these Volvos, and so this one, it happens to be 02 S60. So it's a 5-cylinder turbo, and they should have come standard with a Japanifold, which is what a lot of P80 guys like to put on their white blocks. It's supposed to give a little bit more power, better flow, and sounds better. So they're usually fairly easy to pull. Sometimes if you can squeeze your finger through here, you can feel it. And if you can feel the raised lettering, then you know you have it's a Japanifold, and I'll show you why, what you're feeling for once I get it off. But this one's a little tight. I can't quite get my fingers in there, or either that or I've just gotten fat and I can't get my fingers through that crack anymore to feel if there's any raised lettering. So one of the first steps you want to do is just take off this cross member. So let me take that off, and then you take off the heat shield, then you'll be able to see if it's a Japanifold or not. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so you see I got just the cross brace off and this open, and you can feel, and I can feel the raised lettering, so I can confirm that this will be a Japanifold when I pull it off. So go ahead and pull the rip kit tubing, get the rest of the heat shields off, and then you want to separate the turbo, and then it's just a matter of 13 mil bolts. There's like 10 or 12 of them, and then you pull that out and that'll just slide right out. All right, so once you got all that stuff out of the way, what you want to do is separate the turbo from the manifold. So it's just 4 bolts. You take that out, and then you take out all the bolts that bolt the manifold to the block, and then you can just pull it out from the top. And as you can see, what I was trying to feel were the raised letters. And so you can see this is a manifold that's made in Japan. It's got the inset dividing fins, sort of set back versus flush with the manifold, and that's it. So it takes me about an hour and a half. This one is a little more challenging because it's an all-wheel drive, so the the transfer case was in the way, but usually it takes about an hour just to pull this stuff apart if it's not too finicky. But again, real simple. Just get the heat shield off, kind of quickly feel for it. Feel for these raised letterings. You can get your finger in there, just kind of feel for it. And if you feel the raised lettering, then you keep going. And I start by taking out the rest of the heat shield, then unbolting the turbo, which is just 4 bolts that bolts the manifold. And then there's some piping that you want to remove, or you just cut it off, whatever you want to do, and separate that, pull it off, and then that'll give you access to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts that hold the exhaust manifold, Japanifold onto the block, and you remove those and it pops right off. C70s, what's another popular thing to grab is this cross brace. So it's only on the convertibles, but it really helps to stiffen up the chassis on the P80 cars. So I may come back and grab that, but that's real simple. Just a few bolts, probably with a breaker bar to get the subframe bolts out and pull that out and grab that. All right, so the goal is to get all of this stuff into there. So I had issues passing my smog, so I'm just gonna do a quick tune-up, change the oil, give it a new filter. I've got a distributor cap, new spark plugs, and we'll put it in and see what happens. So let me start with the oil change. We got the oil change done, so next up we'll work our way into the ignition. So we'll do spark plugs, rotor, and cap. So start by taking off this cover here, and then probably remove the air box in order to get to this piping over here. So we'll get cracking. Now that I've got the torque screws out, just pull this cover off and gives me access to the spark plug wire. So just pull up and they pop right out, and let me get the right socket and get those spark plug wires out, or spark plugs out, and then we'll replace the spark plugs. So we've got the old spark plugs out and the new ones in, and these old ones don't look too bad. They've got that nice ash color, but there is a little bit of oil. I don't know how long these plugs have been in there, and they're not the Volvo spark plugs, which according to Robert DIY, they work better. So these were it's an aftermarket NGK ones, which I'm sure work fine, but since I'm trying to pass smog, let me just do things how other people suggest we should do it. So unfortunately, the Volvo OEM spark plug wires are no longer available. So I've got some aftermarket ones that I'll try. And I've got a new distributor cap and a new distributor rotor. So let me go ahead and pull that off and get those replaced. All right, so here's the old cap and here's the new cap. And you can see the new distributor cap's a lot shinier. This is a bit dull. So, I mean, I don't know how much difference that makes in terms of getting a good, clean, strong spark to reduce my emissions. But anyway, somebody suggested if you're going to do it, just do everything. So we'll go ahead and replace the cap. I'm going to do the wires and replace the, if you can see it, the distributor rotor. So let me go and start with the rotor first. Okay, so here's the old rotor off. And if you look really closely, it does look like it's kind of pitted. So I don't know when the last time this was replaced. So maybe it is a good idea that I replace it. So you can see there if as it's coming into focus, in and out of focus here, it's pitted right there at the top. And here, of course, is the new one, nice and shiny. It's got a little bit of a machining mark, but let's put this on and hopefully it'll cure my emissions. So let me get this installed. Well, just got back from a quick test ride and seems to be running good. It sounds real smooth too. So we'll call this done and I'll go take it for a back to the smog shop and see if they'll pass it and report back. But otherwise, did a quick sort of stage 0 tune-up, and man, that engine sounds real good. Okay, well, I'm back here on this 850 wagon, and where we left off is it wasn't starting, and so I think it's one of three things. So it's either a fuel pump relay, the cam position sensor, or the fuel pump, or it could be another position sensor, crankshaft position sensor. But that's really expensive. So, and also I forgot to order it. So I'm going to go ahead and try these one at a time. So let me go ahead and do the fuel pump relay, see if that helps get it started. But I had a couple spares. They were used spares, but none of them work. So I ordered a brand new one from our folks at IPD, and we'll give that a try. Okay, so I swapped out the relay, but when I turned the key, I couldn't hear the fuel pump come on. So my guess is that it's the fuel pump itself, which I'm gonna go rent a tool to open up that that cap and replace the fuel pump. So let me go rent the tool and come back and try the pump. All right, so I'm in the back of this Volvo 850, and I've got a fuel pump here to replace, to see if that fixes my no start position problem. And I rented this tool. It's a fuel pump replacement kit from AutoZone, and you put on deposit, and then after you use the tool and you return it to them, they will refund 100% of your deposit. So it's basically a free rental. And this tool doesn't fit perfectly. I've rented it before to open up the top of the fuel pump to open it up, but it works okay. So I went ahead and rented it again, and I'm just going to go ahead and follow Robert DIY's procedure on how to get to the fuel pump. So let me go ahead and take out this third row seat and get going. Okay, so once you take this access cover off, and it's just a bunch of 10 millimeter nuts, you'll get here, and then you can take this tool, which is part of the kit, and you just want to kind of get these underneath the fuel lines, and then you pry it, and then they'll just pop right off. So you got to kind of wiggle your way in there, and once you get it, then you pull the two fuel lines. One's a return line and one's a feed line, and just kind of get these out of the way. So if I can get it, maybe I've got to pry it a little bit more. Hold on a second. Okay, I actually had to remove the bench in order to get to the plugs. I forgot to do that. So got those out, and I can unplug it, and then we'll go ahead and unscrew this cap, which this is where this tool comes in handy to fit over this. And like I said, it doesn't fit super well, but it's close enough to get the job done. So let me go ahead and unscrew it. And then once you sort of get it started, it kind of just spins out. You can spin it out by hand, and then we'll just pull the whole thing out. Okay, so here's the new one, and we'll go ahead and put it back in, and you just got to remember the orientation of which port goes where. But kind of fit that in. Goes in nice and tight, and then it's sort of just the reverse of uninstallation. So I'm just going to put this cap back on, plug the connector in, and then plug these back in, and then we'll see if the car will start. Okay, so got it all back together, and I'm gonna go to the front of the car, see if I turn on the ignition, whether I hear the fuel pump going. Okay, it's super quiet, but I think I heard the fuel pump prime when I turned it on. So let me go see if I can start the car, and then I'm come back here and check if there are any leaks. All right, well, unfortunately, it's still not starting. So, but it does sound like the fuel pump is going. So I don't know if that was part of the problem. I mean, just may have had a multi-component failure. But let me go ahead and now go on to the next item, which is the cam position sensor. So I'm going to go ahead, get under the hood and replace this and see if that solves the problem. So you can see the cam position sensor back here behind my intake tube. So let me go ahead and first disconnect the battery and then make some space here so that I can unscrew that and screw it in. Okay, so I've got the old one out, and it's just two Torx 40 screws. And once you take it out, there's a little plug. You unplug that, and we're getting ready to put the new one back in. So here they are, sort of side by side. You can see this one's pretty dirty, but these have been known to fail. So I'm hoping that this is it, because after this I'm sort of out of options or out of clues, out of ideas on what to do next. I mean, it could be I'm not getting anything to the coil, but I remember replacing this coil a while back, and so I don't know if none of my stuff's pushed in tightly enough. I mean, I'm not getting a misfire, it's just a no start. So let me put this back in, start it up, see what happens. Okay, got it installed, plugged in, put the air box back, plugged back in the mass air sensor, so everything's back in, batteries plugged back in. So let's keep our fingers crossed, get back in and see if we can start this sucker up. And we're back in business. So I guess it was just that camshaft position sensor that was out, but I went ahead and anyway and replaced the fuel pump. That looks like it's been kind of old, so I can hang on to it as a spare, but it looks like we're back in business. So let me go take it for a smog check, see if I can pass, and we'll be back on the road.